Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to the Baal Shalom's Matan Torah with commentary by Rabbi Avraham Mordechai Gottlieb. We'll be referring to as always, the Rabbi Shlita. We are on page 94, section 14. The header reads, through great effort in Torah and Mitzvot, one gradually attains a second nature of desire to give, and then immediately attains the final goal, which is the state of cleaving to God. The second header reads, interpersonal mitzvot are more suited than mitzvot between a person and God to bring a person to the final goal. Interpersonal mitzvot being mitzvot between each other. The Baal HaSulam begins, thus we see with our own two eyes that a person who is occupied with Torah and mitzvot for its own sake senses no difference between the two categories of the Torah, even at the practical level. For until you become perfected in this, any act for another, whether for God or for people, will of necessity be felt by you as unfathomably empty. But through great effort, you slowly rise and attain a second nature, and then immediately attain the final goal, which is cleaving to God, has been clarified. Devekus, devekut, whatever pronunciation you'd like to use, that is our goal, both as an individual and as a collective. This being the case, reason dictates that the part of the Torah that applies between one person and another is more suited to bring us to the desired goal of devekus, cleaving to God. For the spiritual work in mitzvot between a person and God is fixed and specified and has no critics. A person easily becomes accustomed to it, and whatever is done out of habit has no capacity to bring us spiritual benefit, as is well known. This is in complete contrast with mitzvot between one person and another, which are not fixed and not specified, and critics surround us wherever we may turn. Hence, their suitability is more certain and their goal is closer. The author adds at the bottom, for more on this topic, see Insights for Living the Kabbalah, Essay 8, the back of this book, of Giving, How It Feels to Begin to Give Selflessly, is the name of the essay. Because this section is so short, though we can jump into section 15, I'd like to read a little bit from the essay in the back, just to get a little bit of flavor, a little bit of taste as to the Rebbe Shita's wise words put in such simple form, like the rabbis who came before him. How it feels to begin to give selflessly. I'll read the first section, and if one desires to read the rest, I highly recommend getting the book. Maybe there'll be shirim, there'll be classes in the future where we can go through the actual essays individually together. That would be great. We'll see. Anything is possible. Emptiness. Our natural inclination is to do only what gives us some benefit. When we begin to give out to other people, because that's what God wants us to do, and without any expectation of reward, we're acting contrary to this natural self-centeredness. For those who are with us inside the book, we're on page 172. At first, this causes us to feel sad and cry to ourselves. We have a sense of emptiness, like a hollow space within. It's like walking into a desert when we have no idea where we will find food and water. Without trust in God, we naturally are very hesitant and worried. For this reason, if we receive no pleasure from an act that is done out of love for the other, this may be an indication that we are on the path of truth. That has to be understood, of course. As a note, the Rebbe Zitzal, Rebbe Baruch Shalom Ashlag, says that another code word for lo lishma, not for the sake of heaven, still being in the consciousness of egoism, the consciousness of the nations of the world, so on and so forth, is sheker, falsehood. Because that's not the truth. That's not the secret of life, of attaining dveikus, oneness, and cleaving to the Creator. So until we get to that desired goal, the bitter truth is that we're living a life of sheker, a life of falsehood. But what this is seeming to imply is that the more we are aware of our state of being, and we can actually see and reflect on the fact that there's no taste in even giving to the other, we see where we're lacking. We see the contrast, and that can build a space in our heart in order to raise the true prayer to the Creator to help bring us out of this lowly nature. So in contrast, the Rebbe Zitzal says that lishma, for the sake of heaven, being yashar kel, Yisrael, altruism, righteousness, is called emes, or emet, truth. So in a deep way, the more falsehood one has, meaning the more falseness one is aware of in their own life, the greater consciousness of understanding one is still under the consciousness of egoism and therefore living a life of falsehood relative to the desired goal. The more falsehood there is in that regard, the closer one is to the truth, to emes, and being on the path of truth, as stated here. The path of truth, the derech ha'emet, as we say, is one of the three lines. The Zohar is filled to the brim with examples and teachings regarding the three lines, right, left, and middle. Many delineations for these lines, whether it's chesed, gevura, tiferes, being kindness, discipline, and strength, harmony, balance, truth in the middle, actually, Torah. It's also ideas regarding tiferes. And then in our case, in terms of inner work, the right line is shleimus, completeness, completion, feeling like everything is good. Everything I have in this exact moment is exactly what the Creator wants of me. He wants me to have X, Y, and Z, so I should be happy with this. I'm going to be happy with my portion. And then the left hints to what we were just speaking about, being the self-reflection, the self-criticism, which is a maximum of 30 minutes a day. No more. Or else we can risk falling into negative states of consciousness, like depression or despair, God forbid. Of course, following such a path of truth requires guidance, requires a great sage to defer to, ideally. So I hope that we all have such a sage to connect to, preferably live. The Rebbe Shita continues in this essay. Interestingly, the Hebrew word ta'am means both taste and reason. To say that an act has no taste, meaning lacks ta'am, is to say that the ego has no reason to do it. I only want to do what's going to be tasty. If this is going to provide me pleasure, I'll do that, for sure. Why eat something that has no taste and gives us no benefit? Why do something if there is no reason to do it that fits our understanding and feeling? It requires an effort of will founded on faith in order to complete a task that has no taste. Faith is accepting that God is completely beneficent and is directing all that takes place in the world. This means that also other people's actions are expressions of God in the world. Only when we recognize this can we then act for the benefit of other people out of the love for God. Very difficult. That's why the whole idea is rising above our nature and having emunah, as we say here, faith, above reason, above logic. To believe that Ratzono Latil Nivra, his desire to give goodness to creation, is the core of all of reality and is the constant flow of everything that has ever happened, is happening, and will happen. Despite what we feel, despite what we think, for us to embody that, integrate that, to believe it, despite the pain and suffering, that connects us to the Creator. The Rabbi Shlita continues. Before receiving the Torah, the people of Israel made a remarkable declaration of devotion to God's will. We will do and we will hear. Nase v'nishma. It says here, understand, as hearing is somehow related to understanding. The quote, of course, from Exodus 24:7. With this statement, the people of Israel made a commitment to do whatever God would ask of them before they would understand or appreciate the wisdom in acting according to God's will. The beginning stage of giving selflessly corresponds to the we will do, nase, and this oft-quoted statement of the Israelites in the desert. If we continue on the path of selfless giving, then eventually we receive a new nature whose sole concern is to give lovingly to others. At the moment we receive that new nature, we are freed from the concerns of the ego and united with God in joy. We then have reached the stage of we will hear the nishma. At this level, we are prepared to accept King David's invitation. Quote, taste and see that God is good. From Tehillim, or Psalms 34:9. The next section of this essay is called dynamic, non-habitual. I won't go into it. Emptiness is enough for now. For those who desire to dig deeper, I highly recommend this book. It's really a Jewish classic, without a doubt. I wanted to share some ideas regarding Nasi Benishma. We will do and we will hear. Hearing is somehow related to understanding. As explained in a prior class, there are corresponding terms in the system of Kabbalah, and relative to the face, there is corresponding spheros. This is a means to understand principles that I won't go into too much detail now, but just to go over again, Keter, the desire to give goodness to creation, highest sphera, the root of all, the shoresh, is the crown. So it's not something that's actually on the body or on the face. In actuality, being a part of the body, it's something that's on top, something that's above even the body, a crown. So Keter is corresponding to the top part, either the forehead or the sides here. These are conceptual. Bear with me. Keter, the eyes correspond to Chokhmah. The ears correspond to Bina. The nose to Tiferes. And the mouth to Malchut. So let's zoom into Bina, which is corresponding to the ear, corresponding to hearing. Bina, as a translation, means understanding. So we see here as we will do and we will hear. We will do Torah and mitzvot, which is related to Malchut. The same way we speak things into existence, we also create realities with our actions. So the world of Asiya, this lowest world, the system, is corresponding to the lowest Sphira, which is Malchut. A traditional understanding from those who have had some exposure to Kabbalah and its ideas is the physical world. In our case, the physical actions of Torah and mitzvot, whether helping the other, or saying a bracha, or the daily prayer service, eating kosher, guarding and keeping the Shabbat, so on and so forth. Many more to mention, of course. Judaism is rich in its details, and so sweet. So we will do and we will hear as describing this ascension of Malchut to Bina, being that through the work, through the hard labor, we build the vessels in order to understand. Bina is also related to the word boneh, to build. So as we do the job to get the job, in essence, we build ourselves and we build the world and we build our consciousness to be positive, loving, and giving, slowly but surely. And then we merit to receive the level of Bina through the boneh. Through the building comes the understanding. There's a lot to say on this idea of Malchut to Bina. I think that's good for now. There's countless pages of detail written in the Chokhmah regarding it, and we have just touched the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. I myself having been exposed to just about that, so I think that's good. So through that work, we will taste and see that God is good. Meaning we'll have the proper kelim, we'll have the proper vessels to really taste the inner work, to really taste giving to the other, to taste the plethora of flavors that are in the mitzvot. I've mentioned before, quoting the Rebbe Shlita, about when he was a child and he would go to the market. There was one cheese. Nowadays, you go to the farmer's market or something like, and there's hundreds of cheeses, dozens, whatever the case is. There's so many flavors. If there's so many flavors of cheeses, let alone all the other fruits, vegetables, meats, so on and so forth in the world, all the more so Torah and mitzvah. So many flavors to experience. And the Creator wants us to taste it all, relatively speaking. In the meantime, as we do the work, as we're doing the nase, we will do, and then we'll hear, in the meantime, while we're doing, most of the time we feel the aspect of the snake, the nachash, meaning to describe the inner dynamic of lack of taste. Why? The snake is on its belly and eats only dust, as it says, at least in the verses. Meaning, all that we eat, whether we put on tefillin, saying eating in a relative spiritual term, or we're giving and loving to the other, doing an act of chesed, praying, wearing tzitzit, so on and so forth, that it gives us no flavor. There's no taste in it. Because we're still in the consciousness of the nachash, which is representing the aspect of our consciousness, which is receiving in order to receive. Also, a lot to say there. I think that's good for now. In the next section, we're going to be getting into fulfilling the mitzvah of love your fellow as yourself as the final goal of the Torah. We're coming full circle, doing a little bit of review, as we really do every class. regarding these ideas, hopefully so they'll be ingrained in our minds and hearts. And we're slowly approaching the end. And then we'll continue into Arvut, hopefully, which is a continuation of Matan Torah, the mutual guarantee. Till next time, all the best.